like to welcome you to a special presentation. This is a part of our series on self-empowerment, offering people what insights I believe might motivate them, inspire them, maybe intrigue them to make some positive changes in their lives. The question I'm going to ask and the theme of this discussion is the following. Do we choose our lessons, or does the universe choose them for us? And if so, what happens when we're tested? What happens when we pass or fail these tests? We have to learn that when life gives us the opportunity, we should look for the lesson in all things. That indeed there is no lesson until we choose to learn it. Now think how many people don't want to learn a lesson, do everything they can to avoid lessons, deny lessons. And how do you deny lessons? How do you avoid lessons? You stay firmly entrenched in the old beliefs that you don't have to learn anything new because everything that you need to know you already do. All you have to do is just continue doing more of the same, work harder at the same. Well, where does that get you? It gets you where you've been. You can't go any further in evolving from where you're at unless you change something. There has to be something that takes you beyond that. All the other energy is just an adaptive energy. It's not a transcendence energy. So by growing and by going out and seeking out a lesson that would challenge us, then we see the mantle of our being. Who's real, who's not? Who's honest, who's not? How many times have we assumed in business or in relationship that someone can be honest and not betray us? And we believe them because they tell us that. Huh? How many times someone says, you can trust me. Whatever we say is in confidence. And boom, they betray you. Ever happened to any of you? All of you? Yeah? Countless times, yeah. A serial offender. But in their minds, what do they believe? Do they believe they're not going to betray you? Or do they really know they will betray you, but not in that moment because they'll lose the advantage of what they're getting from you? There's one person in this audience, who I will not identify, who was married to a woman who would betray everyone. She's not here because I asked her not to attend, because she is a serial gossiper. She's malicious. And when I caught her gossiping, I asked her what she was gossiping about, and then she tried to deny it. Then, as one of those rare things in life happened, the person she was gossiping just happened to show up. I didn't plan it, the universe planned it. There's the universe giving us a lesson that we couldn't have created for ourselves. So I simply confronted A with B, who had never met, didn't know, but she thought she knew her well enough to gossip about her. So then I said, well, go ahead, since you've told everyone you know about this woman, now tell this woman what you're telling everyone else. Oh, boy, did that sweat bead suddenly appear. I said, well, you shouldn't have any trouble. You had no trouble telling anyone else. So tell this person. Well, finally, she said what she said. And the woman says, well, that's not me. You don't know me. You've never spoken to me. None of the people you've gossiped to know me. Why would you? Well, because, unfortunately, this other person's actually got a life and is living a happy and balanced life. When people are living a happy, balanced life, they don't have to meddle in other people's lives. And it's amazing to what depth the human being will de-evolve when they don't feel connected to anything. So they connect with the superficial, including putting other people down. So now I just said to this woman, I said, for you and everyone else that gossiped about an innocent person, you're not to come around anything I do. And they've been hanging around my running club and the health support groups and coming to lectures and whatnot, coming to detoxes, coming to 2 years to a health support group, learning the lessons I'm sharing now, motivational talks. But when they were challenged, when they're given a test, they failed. The trouble is it took that long to get the test to them. Had I gotten the test 2 years ago, they'd have failed it then too. You don't become honest and dishonest, trustworthy and untrustworthy. You're untrustworthy to begin with. You're dishonest to begin with. You're an illusion to begin with, and you simply disguise it. We're masters of creating a functional face to a dysfunctional being. And until you get close enough to someone, or until the life force puts those tests in front of us, we'll never know the truth of what we're dealing with. And there's where the pain comes. When you think you know people, you think that you can trust people, and then they're tested and they fail. Now, I don't care what excuse people use. I don't listen to excuses. You know what happens when you don't listen to excuses? Then there are no excuses. If you're dishonest, I don't care why you're dishonest. If you're mean-spirited, I don't care. You can tell me that you were abused before and that justifies your anger and mistrust. It's immaterial, isn't it? It's irrelevant. In the end, if you're not an honest, ethical person, it's irrelevant what caused it. It's a choice you make. You have to reinforce that over and over and over again. You have to own that in order to do it. You could just as easily have owned honesty, decency, ethics, character. You have to master deceit before it exists. It doesn't come naturally, but it did come as a part of your belief system. That's the roots from which you're nourished. That's what happens when you don't work on your primal energy. I don't give a damn about all the spiritual input. I do care about the primal input. What good does it do to paint a putrid orange that's rotted to the core to make it look like it's on a perfect tree when the whole root system has been rotted out? The same with a human being. If you're not actively growing, then you are rotting. If you're not looking for the lessons of life, then you have no lesson upon which your life has meaning. Then you're hiding your dysfunction behind the facade of legitimacy. And how do we do that? We don't stand out and we don't make ourselves known, because then we're making our flaws and limitations known. Therefore, the less that we do to commit ourselves to anything, the less anyone knows how short our shortcomings are. Which is one of the reasons you see so few people willing to commit themselves to causes outside themselves. We have a pathologically selfish nation because we're pathologically dysfunctional. Not because we have mean or bad people. It's not a moral judgment. It's a reflective judgment. And just look at how few people ever commit themselves to social causes. Human rights, child's rights, animal rights, the environment, the end human suffering. We could do all that if we simply asserted what we know is true. You don't need a social scientist to tell you the lessons we should be sharing. Most people are passively hiding on the sidelines of life, looking for distractible entertainment to sublimate their pain and anxiety, what doesn't function in their life. So what doesn't function that causes them the anxiety can be dealt with drugs or overeating or gossiping or food or shopping or gambling or busyness or overwork. You can't be fat and be happy. I don't care what any of these pop psychologists like to tell you. Oh, of course you can, Gary. You can, of course you can be happy. No, you can't. No, you can't. That's like saying, this is a beautiful car I have. I'm going to wreck it every day. But I'm happy. I love my car. That's why I'm going to hit it 50 miles an hour into a wall. I mean, a 5-year-old can figure this out. But the average person is in denial of it. Happy people don't kill themselves.
That's it.
All right? How hard is this lesson to learn? Then what you shouldn't be working on is your fat or your arthritis or your pain. What you should be working on is happiness. And happiness can't exist until the belief system allows it. If your belief system says you don't have the right to be happy all the time, how dare you? Who are you to smile all the time? I mean, there are, and there are people that are kind of anal. They're very afraid to be too happy. I even know people that won't even laugh full-heartedly. They kind of control their laughter, especially accountants. They kind of laugh like this. Okay, I'm really laughing now. Not too much. My goodness, we try to control everything because everything has been controlled. Everything's been controlled in our lives. We're fearful of the person that wants to be the rebel and break some rules and push down some walls because they have been so indoctrinated these walls are real, that our limitations are real. You're a certain age, that's a limitation. Certain size, limitation. Certain gender, limitation. Certain race, limitation. Certain economic or educational background, limitations. We are told that we are limited because someone doesn't believe that we have a right to feel unlimited. Because what would be different if you were unlimited? You'd have no barriers. The only barrier you'd have would be the propriety of ethics and decency to make sure that your growth never in any way adversely affects another human being. Well, as long as I'm a moral, ethical person to the world, then what I do with my life is purely my business. And if I don't choose a limitation, then I'm going to run in a race. I don't care how old the person is I'm running against, because I'm not going to run as if I'm an older person. I'm going to run as if I'm a fast person. And I'm going to think like I'm a creative person. And unless I miss something along the way, nothing that I've done in life have I done because someone gave me a lesson. Every single thing that's important in my life is because I went out and found the lesson. And when tested, sometimes failed it, and then stopped long enough and got the ego out of the way to learn from the test that I was given that was painful or I didn't like, and say, okay, I don't want to learn this lesson again. I want to learn it once. So no matter how many times I'm tested, I know I can pass. Now, what is the truth in my lesson and what is the truth in my being tested? So if someone calls me and says, Gary, I heard you had this celebrity down to your ranch and you were detoxing. What's her name? It's none of your business. Well, tell us something. No, I don't tell anything. I don't break confidences. Everybody breaks confidences. I'm one of those people who don't. I've never broken a confidence, ever. No one ever knows anybody who I've counseled, because it's no one's business. And if I say something, I'm not going to make an exception, because if I make an exception, then I failed the lesson. If I say you're my friend and I will help you, if I say what's inconvenient for me to help you, then I failed the lesson.